There, the young offlaner for FlyToMoon, extolling the virtues of mathematical education in Dota. I like this. I really like this. Seems good. So we do have their opponents still to talk about, guys. Team Kinguin. This is a team Polish squad that has, with the exception of one player, been together for some 4 years now. They've had some really good performances. I do have to say though, in the last couple of games of their series against Optic, maybe looked a little bit overwhelmed.
Yeah, this is a team that actually has DPC points,
Right.
going way back to the summer, and I think they're a team who's been on a downwards trajectory, though, and that's where they started the season really strong. They were a very clear #2 to OG as far as OG, Secret, Liquid, of course, but like in the European qualifiers, it was like always them and OG, it felt like, and Kinguin were the ones who were on the heels of OG. But they've now kind of slipped. It no longer feels like they're the ones who are playing second place to OG. It's now, you know, your final tribe. You've seen a few other teams pop up, Mad Lad, Syndren's new team. So I feel like Kinguin has dropped off a lot in terms of performance.
Now, Lyrical, you agree with that? You think these guys are headed in the right direction?
Yeah, I think it's really tough. Like, you go to these events for them, a lot of them, they qualified for a lot of events, and then they keep on getting knocked out early. I think that's got to be kind of disheartening. And I remember there was a moment where they were actually talking about SG esports a little bit, and they were sort of throwing a little bit of flack their way because SG dropped out of a DPC event to go to WESG, and then they placed fairly well at WESG, and then they were saying, like, you know, you should go to these DPC events to try and become better as a team. And I can understand the feelings, but like at a certain point, I think it really just sucked to like lose over and over and over again. It's got to be tough.
Let's get this party started as the players are walking out to start our third day of play here at the Kiev Cyber Arena. That crowd is going to get bigger very quickly with Na'Vi up for the second series of the day. And there you have it, guys. 6 teams in action today. By the end of 4 best-of-3s, only 2 will remain. We are moments away from our Game 1 draft from FlyToMoon on the left side of your stage against the Polish squad, Team Kinguin. As we go into this draft, what do you guys see as the key heroes for each team? I know, Gabe, you already mentioned the Abaddon, which is really big for FlyToMoon, also a staple pick for Kinguin. Anything else come to mind?
I think Rubik's going to be pretty hotly contested. Both teams picking it up a lot. And both teams have Enchantress players. FlyToMoon also run Chen fairly often. So those type of like kind of crazy game-changing supports that can throw a thorn in people's sides. I'm still kind of curious like how those types of heroes are going to work with the meta. You get less gold from towers now, so maybe you get like a little bit of a shadow nerf going on with them. But to me, those things at least have been what they've run in previously.
Parker, so one guy that was conspicuously absent from our discussion of FlyToMoon, because he's been talked about a lot anyway, is their mid player Iceberg, who started off with Team Spirit, made a huge splash, was a great Invoker player for a period of time, has shined on a lot of the traditional mids like Shadow Fiend or Queen of Pain. He's a guy that I would imagine is going to get a lot of attention from Kinguin in the draft.
Yeah, I mean, if you go way back 5-6 years ago, you know, you had your CIS mid players. It was like, you know, you had Dendy playing for Na'Vi, you had Resolution playing for Empire. Then G came along, he was playing for VP. Those were the 3 CIS mids. Iceberg was the guy who's meant to be the next big deal in the CIS region. He joined Spirit, he was playing with Go Black for a while. He was looking really good, really flashy, but he never really fulfilled his potential. Right. And it feels like this is a team he's put together where they play around him. They really enable him. It really is, as Tsunami says, the Iceberg show. They want to put him on a hero, often the 10th pick that's going to win them the game. They love to play around and make sure it's a good game. So he is the player to look out for when it comes to this team.
And the other thing too, like, it's such a cool story, right? Because I don't know if we talked about this on the panel, you know, away in the little room that they shut me in, but the thing that's so cool about this is that arena that's out there is literally, when it's not being used for events, a LAN center. And he and his twin brother, who also plays Dota, Pikachu, would like play out there in the LAN center. They're like local teams, and now he's playing on the big stage there as well nowadays for like a real team. That's so freaking cool. Like, there's all these stories from back in the day, apparently. I was talking with a couple of the Russian folks there, and like of two little twin brothers that would like go and beat each other up for playing over the rights of a PC.
Oh,
and it was those two.
No, and it was serious too, because apparently they're both fairly serious amateur boxers
Yeah,
as well. I remember when this guy first came up, I talked to somebody in the Spirit organization. They were saying, you know, he's a quiet guy, humble. With these adjectives, I'm thinking this is going to be kind of a little spindly kid. And I meet Iceberg for the first time, and I go, hello. He's a big dude and intimidates with his play as well. What do you see in terms of the hero pool, Gods? Anything stand out to you between these two teams?
I mean, speaking of Iceberg, I think the great thing is his hero pool is really big. He's played a lot of different heroes. We saw Zeus in this tournament, didn't win with that, but he's shown OD, he's shown the Quops, the SFs, he plays the flashier style mid, so perhaps on the other side for Kinguin, I think we're going to see more of like the stable, more passive mids, your Razors, Dragon Knights, Death Prophets.
Although they like their Zeus too.
Yeah, they do.
Although that was the big, my big concern going into the series, Kinguin's had some unforced errors in their drafts. Like you'll go all the way back to Katowice, they fifth pick a Zeus into the Lifestealer. Their drafts the other day, I thought were a little bit shaky. They were thinking about maybe counterpicking individual enemy heroes a little bit too much. When you're a young team, and you've been through this, you were a pro player at first, how do you kind of avoid those draft missteps at LAN?
I think the big thing is doing your preparation more than anything, and also just always like remembering in the back of your mind, like things like, you know, 10th pick, 5th pick Brood, of course, you know, stuff like that always need to be in your mind, and just having preparation, exactly running through those mock drafts is always a big thing that I would do with the teams that I captain. It's like, okay, if they pick these heroes, we're going to pick this. Like, map out the draft as much as possible so there's fewer surprises that can come up, and then show your team, like, we think this is a perhaps possible draft we're going to be playing. This is a rough draft they might be playing. How do you think this would feel? Do these heroes work? What adjustments do you think you need to make out of this? So I think those mock drafts can really help you a lot going into a series when you're actually going to have to do a live draft where surprises can be thrown your way.
Yeah, thoughts from you, Lurko? You've cast a lot of Dota from both these teams, relatively speaking. For Kinguin, do you see a difference in their drafts now versus when they were having success in all these qualifiers maybe a month or two back?
Well, I think that they have always been a team that can throw cheese your way a little bit, too. You talk about the Broodmother. To me, in some ways, Lone Druid almost feels that way also, where it's like maybe not cheese, but maybe like sort of gimmicky, right? Where you play around this one particular hero a lot. And that's, to me, something that I feel like maybe you can step away from that a little bit. I still think that they're an incredibly talented team, and they've got a lot of like individual skill on it. I think they just try and stick with something a little bit more standard and then watch out for it. Because I think when all said and done, they're very, like, they're on par with FlyToMoon. It just, like, need to get through the draft okay.
Yeah, I still look at their hero pool, and the thing that stands out to me is Katsor is really, they've gotten more and more condensed in the heroes that he plays. He played like 8 heroes in 61 games. Like, you compare it to Lil, Navi has played 16 heroes in his last 20. That's something, yeah, it is Lil, but it's something I feel like that opponents can really attack in that draft. Like the Elder Titan for them is so huge, the Rubik is so huge, but then apart from that, not many heroes that they've shown consistency with at that very crucial 4 position.
Yeah, and those are the teams that are easy to prepare against in draft because you have a very good idea of what those players are going to be playing when they've got a smaller hero pool. So something that FlyToMoon can perhaps take advantage of. See if that's going to be the case.
Do you feel like the patch changes have impacted the drafting at all?
I don't think so. I think it's impacted the way the games have played out a bit, but I don't think teams have adjusted their drafts so much because of it. As some of the players have said, like, you know, those towers, yeah, you're getting less gold, but they still give you map control. They still want to take towers because strategically it helps you a lot.
Yeah, I thought it was telling. It was one of the Vegas Squadron players that said that in an interview last night, and I thought that was really telling. You know, the book on them is they're a young team, but I thought that comment showed quite a bit of maturity, understanding. So we are underway in our draft here. Bounty Hunter and Chen taken out by Kinguin, where the Omni Knight is going to be And the Nature's Prophet. This okay. So this is a hero that I felt like one or the other side was going to ban. A lot of love for this hero in the CS region as a 3. A lot of love shown in DAC as a 4 position is this Nature's Prophet.
Well, and I was looking at the drafts beforehand and trying to figure out like where they would both go to. I was figuring if FlyToMoon, if Kinguin have first pick, then FlyToMoon are probably going to ban it out, and it's sort of the opposite as well. And it's sort of a question of like, all right, now are they going to give up the Rubik? Are they going to decide to give up an Enchantress potentially here? And actually, Kinguin are going to ban out the tree. FlyToMoon have run it before. It's a CIS special, but it's not like their go-to. I would probably be more concerned about the ABBA, honestly. But it looks like they're going to give away the Tiny also.
I think a lot of these teams feel like Transistors here, they're not used to versing, and it can cause a lot of problems if you're versing a very experienced Treant player, which FlyToMoon have. So you'd just rather not verse like a annoying hero that you just aren't accustomed to versing. Rubik first pick, AA response.
Yeah, this is where you talk about some of the predictability of Kinguin. They've opened Rubik 3 times in their last 6 drafts as their first overall pick, and he's by far, along with Elder Titan, 36 out of the last 61 games has Katsura been on ET or Rubik.
Quick draft, so AA, Tussle, both teams most likely getting their support duo. Kinguin could be flexible with the Sand King, but we'll see it as a 4.
The last couple Rubik Sand King opens that Kinguin has shown, they've picked up the Lone Druid for Exotic Deer 3rd, and I really like that look for them. Kinguin is a kind of a new school for Protect 1 team. They like to play with Exotic Deer, forcing tempo on this kind of dead lane hero. Oh, they do. All right.
They take it out
they ban
immediately.
it. Yeah, well, there goes that narrative.
And the Death Prophet taken out by Kinguin, that was a hero I thought they might pick in the first stage with the AA. I don't think it's the ideal hero to put Iceberg on, although he does play it a decent amount. It's just not the flashy hero he likes. But with the AA, you've taken out that counter, and Death Prophet at this event has just been a great hero to guarantee you can force Roshan, force objectives, take towers, and turn those small leads into much bigger leads.
I wonder if FlyToMoon here are thinking about banning out the Brood. Like, they don't have great supports to deal with it. They still would have like multiple picks to deal with it, but it's something at least that Kinguin have shown when they get into a little bit of a hole, they'll run a Brood.
Yeah, and people talk a lot about, you know, 5th pick, last pick Broods, but you can pull it out, and that's, if you're worried that it's going to get banned last, you can pick it 4th, and then assuming your opponents don't have any heroes to deal with it, you give them just a single pick to counter it.
Yeah.
And again, I really like that because it's an exotic deer hero. They will run it mid, and that really frees up Nisha to be on that big safe lane carry.
Looks like they want to take the gyro out though, so they're not too concerned about it. Like, that's the thing too, is that FlyToMoon have played, both of these teams have played against a ton of Broods, so they probably have a good understanding of like what type of heroes to draft that they can run to deal with that. There it is.
Oh, that is most likely, yeah, 3 position Night Stalker.
Yeah. Very kind of a lane bully in some ways. With the Tusk, he's going to have a much better lane as well, being able to Ice Shards, pull the creep wave back to a better place. And that dual lane can definitely cause problems for a lot of safe lane carries. Some of the better ones to fight against that aggression would be like the Gyrocopter, the Lone Druid who can also sit back. But
I think it's again like that CIS region thing. Like Blizzy, to me at least, I felt like was the innovator with it. And FlyToMoon and Vega Squadron played a ton of qualifiers against each other. They saw the strength of this hero, and it also gives that amazing vision. And that's something that you really want with the Sand King, being able to find a solid initiation. Rubik to me is going to feel like food in a lot of these later stage games.
yeah, he's not going to have much fun.
Yeah, certainly not the best. And again, this is the, you know, if you have planned out, scripted out drafts to deal with the Rubik or the Elder Titan, it feels like that's almost always going to be a first phase pick for Kinguin.
Okay.
What?
Okay, so
that's
Sand King off lane.
That.
Rubik Disruptor support duo sounds very weak.
Yeah, especially against a Night Stalker Tusk.
Yeah. Very squishy. I mean, you've got range, you've got catch, but not a big fan of this. I don't think the Static Storm offers you anything amazing against these heroes. I mean, you haven't seen the cores yet, but a bit surprised to see him pick up Disruptor.
It is the most placed hero for Lusage, and Rubik Sand King is a dual offlane that can work. We've seen a lot of teams run it. It's not, you know, been hugely successful, but if you have particularly if you have 2 cores that are self-sufficient in your last 2 picks, and you can threaten the roam from
this is the other classic, the Iceberg OD.
Oh man.
Yeah, you talked about his Invoker. The OD was the other hero he played a lot. Lifesteal, this was the carry I thought would be like picked up a lot in this series. I think. Yeah.
And a snap pick too in response to the OD.
I was surprised when it picked up, but I thought even FlyToMoon might want it. It's great against, you know, Disruptor because of just rage if he's going to try glimpse you. But good for Kinguin's draft as well.
It's into the Tusk, which scares me a little bit. I really like FlyToMoon's draft so far. I think that, like, you talk about the Rubik Sand King as a aggro lane, but the thing that's a little bit scary about that is even though they do have the Life Stealer, who's a little bit of a stronger laner to pair with the Disruptor, Disruptor could still get bullied in this one.
He can. I like the fact, though, that Sand King here is the farming core. So he's going to have that Blink Dagger online a little bit earlier to be a delivery mechanism for the Lifestealer. It doesn't necessarily feel like this is a Radiance Lifestealer game. It feels like this might be the old Armlet Lifestealer game where he gets inside the Sand King relatively early.
Yeah, when you've got the Blink initiative to infest into the Armlet, the burst damage from those items does become a lot more effective. So definitely wouldn't mind seeing the old school, the traditional Lifestealer builds. Radiance with the mischance, very good against OD. Very good against when you're getting kited and locked down, but that's not really something FlyToMoon's draft is going to do. I think you actually just want to run at AA, try and kill him as fast as possible. Same with the Night Stalker, the OD. Can get kited a bit with the Astral. The save potential there can be very annoying.
You feel like you think FlyToMoon go for maybe a Terrorblade here?
Against Lifestealer, do fine. Laning stage, TBAA against like the Sand King Rubik sounds a bit weak, but if your TB just survives and gets enough farm, you're in a pretty good spot.
I'd be a little concerned about all that magical damage too. I think maybe something like honestly even like a safe lane DK, something that can hit towers. Okay. Maybe you could go for something like a Jug if you wanted to. That might be a little bit of a safer option.
After the Gyro, which was banned out by them, and the Lifestealer, Wraith King, PL, and TB are the next big ones for Silent.
Yeah, they like their Wraith King. It's not really a great hero, but they've made it work okay.
Well, I think, again, when you're talking about the in-your-face playstyle of the CIS teams, they like a carry that can be out front and not having to worry about dying.
Yep. It's great against those like disruptor heroes that like initiate on you and try and blow you up, and there's the last ban on Brood. Yep. Actually coming out from Kinguin.
The other CIS classic here is the that they've run is the Chaos Knight.
Yeah,
which I think is pretty good against Lifesteal.
Yeah, very good against Lifesteal. It probably depends a bit on what Kinguin get with their 5th pick, but Sand King, some AoE there, Disruptor. Maybe rather see like the CIS Troll Warlord. I think with the OD there's some good synergy with the Battle Trance, very good against Lifestealer. It's a BKB builder against the Sand King Disruptor. I think that makes a bit more sense. I think Lycan can also be very good here for FlyToMoon.
I don't know what Nisha plays.
Like Nisha could be your Lifestealer, actually.
I don't know if I like that in him as much, but I think it can be if they feel pressured into that. But like normally this would be a Medusa game or something like that, I think.
Enough,
but the OD, that feels really, really rough to me.
Shadow Fiend, perhaps?
Yeah, Shadow Fiend. Or that's not what I thought we would see. Okay.
I mean, you're the Visage guy. Is it a good Visage game?
This is their first Visage pick since 7.08 came out on February 1st.
In pro game, really?
Yep. This Kinguin's first Visage.
Oh, Kinguin's first. I was like, I thought you were talking about overall.
No. We've seen plenty of Visage.
It's one of the most banned against theirs, though. He does like this hero a lot.
Oh, that's true. That's true.
It's one of the better heroes against OD. I think just matchup-wise, you feel like you're not going to get beat down. You're got good burst damage to kill him. The Grave Chill is really nice against OD, and that's the build most Visages are going, maxing that by level 7.
He looks happy.
It's a good pick here. It gives him an objective taker. You can rush the Helm of the Dominator, push down a lot of early towers. It combos well with a Lifestealer who can just kind of be frontlining and helping you go for towers as well. And one of the Visage problems is he's very slow, he's not mobile, but that's what the Lifestealer Sand King can do. They can be the ones going around ganking, setting up kills, because Visage does not initiate at all.
Yeah, I worry a little bit, though, that FlyToMoon can just come back with something like Troll for the attack speed against the birds.
Yeah, Troll still looks pretty good. I think the Lycan even also still sounds... Those two heroes still look pretty good. Just running at the Visage with in Shapeshift.
Yeah, exactly.
Necrobooks, like, he's not going to be able to do too much against that.
I kind of like the Jug as an answer also. I don't know. I think that I really liked FlyToMoon's draft beforehand.
Oh, that is not what I thought we would see. Okay. It does give you the team fight. I don't know. I worry a little bit, though, that FlyToMoon's draft might have gone awry a little bit with that last pick, because that does give you that long cooldown to play around.
I think the long cooldown out of a carry, Void just feels like you really want carries that can actually always be able to offer something, whether it's the hero doesn't push lanes like other maybe traditional carries do very well, and then he's very reliant on ulti. When ulti's down, it just feels like Void is not a hero that can do anything. All
right, boys, time to lay it on the line. Predictions here for game 1. Gabe?
I think I'm going to go for FlyToMoon. I think that Night Stalker dual lane to me feels very, very strong. I really like the Visage pick, though. I think that's like the only little thing that was maybe going to be a hurdle for him. So I'm still going to stick with FlyToMoon, though.
The other way, I have to Visage on the side of on the side of Kinguin. I think Kinguin's looked very shaky. I was coming into the series thinking FlyToMoon would maybe have the edge, but I like Kinguin's draft in game 1. Feel like they can take a win here.
I agree with everything he said. I am going to go in that same direction. The panel is split 2-1. Let's send it out to our casters. Here are Odie, Pixel, and Tsunami.
Thank you very much, Nahaz. Yes, the first series of day 3 here at Starlight. I'm ODPixel, and I'll be joined by Tsunami for this one. We've just seen the 2 lineups come through. The panel seeming to take a favor a bit to the Visage finisher, and a little less so towards the silent, the carry faceless Void that FlyToMoon are playing. What do you reckon, Tsunami? What are you liking? What are you disliking out of these drafts?
Well, initially I was disliking the fact that FlyToMoon didn't really have any push, but then I looked at Kinguin's lineup, and I'm like, their push isn't that exceptional either. You've got the Visage. But aside from that, this is looking like 2 teams that are going to be in combat, locked in combat a lot. And in that respect, I do think that the high cooldown of Faceless Void is going to be a bit of a liability, but we'll see how effective this core Visage will be.
Absolutely. It's definitely a hero that we've seen multiple teams as of late been able to sort of slip in as a 4th, 5th pick in a draft and have a pretty incredible impact with. As it's sort of one of those heroes that can really sort of overrun the lane and the game if you don't have the suitable ways of dealing with the Visage and her familiars. We'll see if...
oh, it's a her for you?
I guess it's a him, isn't it?
It is a him.
Oh, I don't know. I mean,
maybe you've got, he's kind of like a motherly figure to his familiars, right?
I guess. I'm trying to... What's his... He's got... Yeah, he's like Visage.
I mean, yeah, he definitely has a male voice.
Yeah. Okay, him. Himself... and his familiars.
He can be fatherly to them.
We'll see what happens here. So, game 1, we're getting into it. Would you sort of agree with the panel? Would you say this is more sided towards Kinguin off the back of this draft, or...?
I'm looking to see how much Patos gets done on the Sand King.
Okay.
Like Nahaz had mentioned, I would like to see the old vintage Lifestealer build where you get an early armlet, you're more combat-oriented, but that's all predicated on the fact that Patos is able to get an early Blink Dagger on the Sand King. If he's getting shut down in this safe lane, which would be surprising, but an AA can always be very tricky.
Katsura in trouble. Shards are out. That's first blood for Iceberg nonetheless as well. A great start for FlyToMoon's mid laner.
Yeah, Patos is going to be the key for Kinguin, but time and time again I've mentioned that the success from FlyToMoon comes from the Iceberg show. And OD is a hero that, if he gets like an early Blink Dagger and stuff like that, can be surprisingly explosive. And so it's more of a conservative pick, but I'm pretty sure that Iceberg's going to be able to turn it into something that's, like I said, high combat for this game.
We'll see how much Nongrata can get done on his Night Stalker, one of the more relatively unknown players on the team. See what they can make happen. They do get the shards out here, allowing them to punch pretty hard into Ellie Sash. They're trying to turn and bring down Nongrata, but they're going to lose the Disruptor. Can Nongrata get himself away from Exotic Deer? He can. So a second kill for FlyToMoon, with Kinguin unable to get anything in return.
And his shards are up in 3 seconds. If he can get him on these stairs... Nah, it doesn't block the entire stairs.
I was hoping to see if he could try and steal the bounty rune away, but Ellie Sash was already back with a respawn and was able to make sure that Kinguin are at least able to get that for themselves.
Yeah, the advantage of sending the Tusk here initially is because OD does not need very much help against a Visage in the mid lane. He can just Astral. He's not really going to be able to kill him, but it's going to be a break-even farm lane.
It looks like we have got an AA mid, maybe. I wonder if he was thinking about looking for a courier snipe, but he will head himself away. He was always want to fly, hiding in the trees. But we'll leave that mid lane for now. So, I mean, out of all the lanes, who do you think is going to suffer the most in a sort of a particular lane matchup?
Well, Void down here with Sand King is going to be kind of painful. The Rubik is lingering as well. We'll see how much time you're able to let the Rubik stay down there, but if Patos gets points in Caustic Finale, even with the chilling touch support of an Ancient Apparition, it's not going to be enough to get this Void farm. And I am curious what Void's going to build this game, because you've got a lot of options. One position Void is a difficult place because you oftentimes feel obligated to go for the Battle Fury. Mask of Madness can sometimes be a little bit too dangerous if you're the farming position, but you often need that utility that a Battle Fury provides.
Yeah, I think a lot of it depends on how much weight they want to put on Iceberg to sort of carry the game, because as you say, if you wanted to go for something like the Mask of Madness into Shadow Blade build, sure, it does allow him to sort of make sure that each and every chrono that he gets early on, he can look to use it actively and set up for Iceberg to be there with the punches, the right clicks, but it's a lot of sort of reliance on having the OD there able to offer the damage and a lot of pressure on Iceberg to carry the game himself. So yeah, we'll see which way Silent does opt to go this time around.
Thankfully, they've got damage that they can pour into the Chronosphere. You mentioned the OD. AA Always Want to Fly is a typically very greedy support. This is a dude who will get boots early on, and we saw a Aghanim Scepter on an AA yesterday, and that's the kind of greed that I think FlyToMoon can get away with as Nightstalker ends up going down in the top lane to this Lifestealer.
Exotic Deer and Ali Sash able to have enough control to punch into Non-Grotto, getting Kinguin there, first kill on the board. As a mid lane CS at the moment, 10 for 6 on Iceberg against the 8 for 1, so doing very well at the moment in that matchup. Iceberg having that slight edge.
Yeah, Tusk has had this Invis rune for a while. He had headed over to the mid lane, and that's what left Nightstalker a little bit vulnerable at a time.
Yeah, couldn't quite find an opportunity to go in on to Nisha. Very hard really to do too much really with Iceberg.
Time lock.
Get the bash, indeed, Silent. He gets another one. He's not even going to need a third to finish off the kill. The 2 will be enough, but the RNG there for Silent. At level 2, time like that extra bit of damage, helping punch down the Rubik. Yeah, I'm going to see Pados actually try and find a kill in response. He's bringing Always Want to Fly pretty low, not quite low enough. Catsaw seeing if he can close the gap, and he does get the telekinesis. Dragon Always Want to Fly back, zapping him down, and with the punches he'll find it, but Silent nearly actually getting Patos as well in return. Pados with the Burrow Strike will be able to get the stun to allow him to walk away from Silent. Kinguin able to get something at least back out of this bottom lane. It is going to be a bit of time though where Pados has got to make the long walk back to base. So some extra space for Silent in a lane where he's actually been dealing pretty well with the pressures. We see the sort of the CS from the 3 cores of FlyToMoon doing just that little bit better than that of Kinguin. Kinguin have got Exotic Deer at the top on his Lifestealer, but the Sand King and the Visage falling behind Nisha in this mid lane, now being doubled in CS by Iceberg's OD.
And tripled in pressure, 3 heroes converging on this mid lane. Always Want to Fly has a DD rune, but Nisha's hiding. There isn't a Radiant Observer though.
This has been a pretty rough start for Nisha. I mean, in sort of this matchup, is it expected, do you think, for the Visage to suffer this much in the early levels?
This much is a little bit surprising to me.
I think this is Iceberg just crushing it, isn't it? It's 18 for 13.
And Nisha's kind of scared also because he doesn't really know where this Tusk is. His courier's now spotted out and he's underneath a shard.
They're going to have TP reaction coming in, Kinguin. Catsaw comes in straight away to have the backup for Nisha, stops FlyToMoon being able to look for anything aggressive, and with Elisash coming in as well, they may be able to find something. He's got the snowball onto the creep. That's actually going to be able to get him over where the kinetic field was and back to safety. But I say that only temporarily though, as the glimpse is there from Elisash. They will drag No Fear back, and Kinguin will be able to punish the Tusk for hanging around the mid lane.
Kinguin's getting kills, but they're having to spend a lot of time, so that Rubik kill in the bot lane, it costs Patos so much time, who's now getting kind of low again. These levels are so valuable on a Sand King because Caustic Finale and Time Walk need to be basically neck and neck for Sand King to have an advantage. But once Faceless Wood gets a slight experience lead, then all of a sudden it becomes very difficult. Same thing in the mid lane. This Visage has to show up to kill a Tusk. He's missing out on a bunch of experience in the mid lane that OD's getting.
It really is. Nisha, we are still yet to sort of see the recovery plan from this Visage. 24 for 17 against the 10 for 5. This gap is only just getting bigger and bigger between Iceberg and Nisha, as Iceberg's OD just absolutely crushing it at the moment in this 1v1.
And Visage is not a hero that can come back easily. You are kind of like an Invoker in an aspect, except not so much Sunstrikes, but you have to get kills with your Familiars if you fall behind. You can't really farm the jungle that effectively. And Familiars do push fairly well, but the problem is, like I said, the rest of his team is terrible at pushing.
See on the 2 off lanes, Pados 20 for 2 on his Sand King. Nongrata having the slightly favourable time there up top, and in fact bottom, Silent. He's got the chrono, wants to pop it. Sees an opportunity for a kill, doesn't mess around. It's just a support, but at this stage, always the temptation to just use those early chronos, even for the smaller kills, as it's unlikely that your team as a whole is going to be grouping up and relying on that chrono at the, sort of the 6-minute mark. You just want to get the quick kill.
And it's unlikely the enemy team's going to be grouping up either. Because
yeah, you're not under too much threat yourself.
So far behind. Night Stalker doesn't even care. It's been first night for like 2.5 minutes. Nongrata's just like, you guys don't need me. Things are under control. I'm just going to be sure that I can get even more experience.
I mean, it really is just all 3 of FlyToMoon's cores getting free farm. It's the 37, 34, 33 CS at the moment. Top lane, Exotic Deer trying to make a bit of a go onto Nongrata. It's going to be the snowball from No Fear just to make sure that there's no follow-up from Kinguin. Keeping the Night Stalker safe, but yeah, some very, very happy cores on FlyToMoon.
And supports, like I said, always want to fly as a hero that will always get boots. He's got boots already on this Ancient Apparition. This is not a PPD style Ancient Apparition, and he's not level 6 yet. He's level 3 3/4, but he is going to get that up and running, and that's going to make these chrono ganks even more viable.
See Katsu come towards mid, see if he can do something about Iceberg. They do have the familiars now out from Nisha, so this little extra will help him catch a bit up in the CS and have that extra bit of potential to make an attempt onto Iceberg if he does get +1s coming into the mid lane.
That's an early point in Soul Assumption also. A lot of Visages skip it, especially in the mid lane situation, but here he realizes he needs kills to come back into this game. And Kinguin supports are just looking lost right now. They don't really know where to go because they're expecting FlyToMoon to be making rotations, and FlyToMoon's just staying static.
They're going to make a bit of an attempt onto Nongrata. Katsu here as well, but at the same time there's backup. Can they actually get over to help Nongrata though? Pop the darkness. As Exotic Deer and Sash do have to just back away from this Night Stalker. They just can't commit for the kill, despite having the threat there. Massive TP reactions coming in though, because Iceberg, he's moved up to the top lane. Pados with the haste rune able to close the gap with the Burrow Strike straight on top of the OD. They've got the telekinesis, but there's the save for now. The snowball across the creeps, giving some extra time for Iceberg to back up. He'll turn with the Astral to make sure there's no Burrow Strike from Pados. Hot for stick charges.
Shards.
Iceberg's going to get out of there, but it looks like No Fear will not be as fortunate as they catch out the Tusk. But a great bit of save play there from FlyToMoon to get Iceberg back to safety. And all in all, that was a heavy rotation from Kinguin. Does just get the support kill, whereas bottom lane Silent, he's continuing to free farm on this Void. 57 for 10 CS at the 9-minute mark. He's pretty much not missed a creep.
I guess OD must have picked up some rune on the... Oh, no, actually, I can look at the history and he didn't get any rune. It's so weird to me that Outworld would come up to the top lane there because he was crushing Visage, and now his mid-tier 1 is at like half HP because he left the lane to go top for an unnecessary gank. Like, they popped Darkness on Nongrata, but there was no reason to go that aggressive on the Lifestealer. Lifestealer ends up rotating to the bot lane, so I guess you moved him around, and he's getting bashed silly here. But
yeah, Silent was playing around with the idea of the chrono, but Exotic Deer quick into the creep and will be able to get himself back to safety because of that.
Yeah, Lifestealer's not in good shape, and what you saw in that top lane fight is just a sign of things to come. You've got Snowball Banish to be concerned about, you've got OD Astral to be concerned about, you've got this Night Stalker flying around that is going to be a big problem, and you've got a chrono on top of all of that. So this Lifestealer is going to get consistently kited all game long.
He's got to keep the farm up, and so far in the farm he's doing absolutely okay. Exotic Deer still second highest on the net worth, as we'll see what sort of build he does want to opt for in this game. Now going to go for a bit of a play here by the looks of it. Katsu's going to smoke and TP out himself towards the top, and actually well with the Lifestealer back in, maybe this is just a quick warding mission here off the back of the smoke. Top lane Pados trying to open up onto Nongrata. There, poor Exotic Deer in as well. He's turning towards Katsu. Nongrata pretty tanky. He's going to go for the TP out. Is he going to make it? He's not. Pados has the Burrow Strike back in time. Same time mid lane. FlyToMoon commit the chrono. Get themselves the core kill. Take down Nisha. It's a pretty even trade, really, considering the value of Nongrata's Night Stalker at the moment on that off lane.
Yeah, actually surprising. Night Stalker is actually more valuable than the Visage, but Visage still provides a lot of value with the familiars still hanging around, and if those didn't die as well, then at least it wasn't a massive net worth or cooldown disadvantage. Although, it's kind of taking some damage, and Chrono's down, so I wouldn't be surprised if Kinguin are okay defending this.
We'll see if they can do anything about it. At the moment, Katsu and Patos on the high ground. FlyToMoon will back away. Not really the best lineup of tower hitters. No real way for FlyToMoon themselves to achieve quick sieges.
And AA is now level 6, and they're hoping for something on exotic tier in the top lane, but he's backing out.
Yeah, going straight for that Treads Radiance build hit this game, and I believe it's about 2.3k towards the relic.
Yeah, as mentioned on the panel, Odie is a hero that does not really like having to build MKB.
Yeah.
And Faceless Void as well. He's a little bit more likely to do so, and it looks like Silent is going to be going for that Battle Fury build on the Void, so even if he doesn't manage to farm up an MKB, he's going to have at least a net worth. As he can keep up with the Lifestealer in terms of net worth, Radiance farming versus the Battle Fury farming.
Well, no fear and Non-Grata looking to put pressure on the top lane, same time down bottom. Nisha pushing in with the Familiars and the back of Valley Sash. Should be able to find this tier 1 tower at the safe lane of FlyToMoon, and they do. They'll take the tower. Mid lane, TP actually coming in, Ellie Sash, drop the wall, seeing to get the vision. Does manage to find Silent and gets the catch straight back into the Static Storm. And they kill him though. There's going to be the defensive Astral from Iceberg, and that's going to give enough time for Silent to stay safe a little bit longer. The Burrow Strike comes in though in the epicenter. They're chasing down Silent. Silent pops the stick charges, but it's not going to keep him alive, or is it? One more touch is going to do it. No, he stays alive. Silent actually manages to get up, but they've lost Iceberg. They may lose No Fear as well, as Pados has the Burrow Strike. Kinguin will find themselves a second. So losing the life of Ellie Sash, but a great way for Ellie Sash to start that fight off. Coming in, dragging back the Void. Sure, they don't kill Silent, but they force FlyToMoon to take the fight. And a brilliant epicenter from Pados in the middle of it, will just getting enough damage out to get these 2 kills for Kinguin.
It's a dream epicenter to have pre-Blink Dagger, and now he has Blink Dagger money after claiming that tier 1 tower. Dealt nearly 2.5k damage throughout that entire
look
fight.
how rich he is. I mean, he's the second highest in the game, Pados. I mean, you said a lot of this game is going to be sort of eyes on Pados to make the plays happen, and he's certainly on track to do so, as you say, with this Blink Dagger timing and the farm that he's had and impact that he's had at 13 minutes.
Yeah, now they're all grouping up top. Patos can pick up a Blink Dagger in the side shop and maybe try to sneak some movement on this top tier 1 tower of Radiant. But Chrono is available now, and that was not the case in the previous fight.
Let's see, so the Ice Blast is going to head up here to just clip onto Pados.
And Sand King picks up the Blink Dagger in the side shop. And they're not even really worried too much about lingering here, because OD's in the mid lane. He may be able to do some damage to this tier 1, but again, these are very slow pushers. You're allowed to spend some time looking for ganks, and that's perfect for a Lifestealer, because if you're sitting around in an infest, sometimes in your mind you're like, the enemy team's going to start pushing my towers, I'm not farming, but against this FlyToMoon squad, it's not that big of a concern.
We'll see. A little bit of an attempt onto Catsaw. Silent does put the Chrono. He clips a couple of them. We'll look for the easier kill first as he focuses down Ellie Sash with the help of Nofa. They find one. Can they get Nisha as well? Now that's the question. Pados is here to back up Nisha, and they can't quite punch through this Visage immediately. Finally, they do get it. Silent finds the double, but again, Pados, he gets the chance to get out the epicenter, bringing Nofa down incredibly low. Exotic Deer as well, ready with the chase down. Onto always want to fly. They'll find 2, they'll find 3 for Pados. Gets the triple kill each and every time now that it looks like FlyToMoon are going to get away with the players. They do take down Nisha. Pados just seems to turn up and turn things around.
Visage is so deceptively tanky, so that you have to Ice Blast him to start burning off the Gravekeeper's Cloak. But before that, like, he's got Medallion, he's got Helm of the Dominator, he's got maxed out Gravekeeper's Cloak. It takes so much effort to take him down. So Void chronoed him and was like, yeah, I'm not going to worry about this. I'm going to go for the Disruptor instead. And then Nightstalker on the left side of the chrono was like, nah, it's cool. Leave the Visage to me with the Ice Blast. Not as easy as you think. And Nightstalker goes down, and quick rotation from Patos wraps up the rest of the fight.
And Pados, very beefy level 10 now. The Sand King does get caught out here. He's got the Burrow Strike. They don't have detection. So Pados, he's going to be fine. And in fact, with the Static Storm down, they may just be able to kill off Iceberg. They have the Telekinesis, dragging it back. Silence from Non-Grata down onto the Sand King. Pados does get the chance for that final Burrow Strike through, but again, with the Astral, it's going to mean that Iceberg can survive. This time, Kinguin will lose 2, as they can't quite kill off the OD. Backups there for FlyToMoon. They come in full force and are able to punish Kinguin for making sort of that sort of half-hearted movement over to FlyToMoon's half of the map, as it wasn't their entire team. But FlyToMoon was certainly ready to respond with their entire.
Yeah, Patos was waiting for that crippling Fierce Silence to time out, and he was going to go for the Burrow Strike onto Iceberg's defensive Astral, but the problem was Rubik stole Astral and re-Astraled the OD to try to finish
it
him
looked
off.
like, so it was a bit of a blunder there.
Yeah.
As what the Burrow Strike damage
It was.
would have
He basically skill shot at the Burrow Strike, but OD was in the Rubik's Astral, so no dice. And now, all of FlyToMoon are like, if we have to take this tower, we have to commit a majority of our heroes. They scan out, but it does not catch Patos on the east side.
Well, despite that bit of a bad skirmish for the Kinguin to take down bottom, Nisha and Exotic Deer look towards the pit. They are going to start TPing away. They want to fight down bottom. They want to get involved, and it looks a bit risky. Lucky that no sort of bashes came through from Rush. Kinguin able to find one. Iceberg is very, very deep in. They're going to find him as well. So sure, FlyToMoon, they did manage to find the tower, but it cost them 2 lives as Kinguin very much ready to respond there with the mass TPs and do manage to kill off Iceberg this time. The big kill that sort of eluded them last time.
Yeah, I was watching Lifestealer slapping the ground for like 5 seconds. I was like, surely he gets bashed, or surely the tower gets claimed.
Because Roche was hitting him, wasn't he?
Yeah, for sure. And I was like, this probably is not going to end well. But then the TP completes, they deny the tower, and they manage to kill off Iceberg. This lack of push from FlyToMoon is hurting them so badly.
Silent with that Battle Fury will be able to keep himself at the top of the net worth whilst this all goes on, and does finish off that tier 1 tower top, queuing up the Shadow Blade next as well. So as we talked about, just that need for them to get these sort of perfect chronospheres to allow Iceberg to go to work undisturbed in the team fights and rack up that int.
Yeah, but when these cooldowns are spent, which Chrono is available right now, but Sanity Eclipse is down, this Dominator, Siege Creep, plus the Visage Familiars are being able to crush these towers.
Yeah, I mean, Kinguin they're hitting some timings now. Radiant's Lifestealer, the Hood on Nisha tanking up even more, and Patos just continuing to head forward, lead the charge off the back of this smoke with Exotic Deer inside him and see if they can find a chance to kick a fight off.
Yeah, if no fight, then go for Roche. And it looks like they're content doing that. Problem is, Chrono is available.
FlyToMoon are very close by. They're going to have the smoke
just
dispelled.
propped.
They know that something's going on here. Non-Grada's going to get jumped on those straight away. Patos and Exotic Deer looking to try and bring down the Night Stalker, but he's a bit too tanky. He'll survive. Silent. Time walking forward. They've got the Chrono. In fact, he's caught out 4 of them here. The Ice Blast comes in straight away on top of Patos. That's 1 down, but in return, they have lost No Fear. Non-Grada also being forced away from the fight. There'll be a buyback from No Fear, looking to get back in on this and help out his side of FlyToMoon. Iceberg moving forward, looking towards Exotic Deer. Doesn't have the range available. He's going to be Astral. That should be enough damage to finish him off. No, it's not. It still dies. The right clicks are there. Exotic Deer will fall. Kinguin, they've lost 2. They will have to back away from the pit. And Silent with a very nice Chronosphere there to really sort of throw a spanner into the works that the Kinguin were trying to get going. Means that they do find a trade. And sure, FlyToMoon lost 2 themselves, but they are able to get that kill on Exotic Deer, the big old Lifestealer, the one that they were desperately hoping for. No, yeah. Kinguin, they're straight back into the pit.
Well, cooldowns are spent. You saw how effective the Chrono was, and they were like, well, you got 4 heroes, but what are you going to do now?
They always want to fly as well outside of the pit, so the Ice Blast comes out. But they don't have to worry about it for another 30 seconds.
This is a bit optimistic. Your Lifestealer is not back in the fight yet. He's respawning now.
It's not the quickest of rushes.
No. And Iceberg is distracting the Lifestealer in the mid lane, distracting everyone, evidently, aside from the Visage, who's a man on a mission to finish off this Roche.
They have got the Shadow Blade complete for Silent, but still, as you say, without the Chrono. So, limited in sort of the potentially has in these fights. So, Exotic Deer back in the game and back into the pit. And with this final push, they should be able to get this. I mean, FlyToMoon, they are still close by, but sort of questionable whether they can actually get into the pit and put a stop to what Kinguin are doing. And indeed, they can't. Kinguin get Roshan, secure the Aegis onto the Lifestealer mid lane, trying to find Iceberg, but a quick force and a blink will get him. They've got the vision for the glimpse. They'll drag him back. Snowball's going to be there to buy some time for him. As he'll self-astral, he hasn't got the blink available, it's still on cooldown. So Iceberg cannot escape from this one. So on top of getting the Roche and the Aegis, they get Iceberg as well. That catch there from Ellie Sash with the glimpse.
Yeah, he blinked. I guess he thought that he was on high ground vision as the Chrono comes out.
Silent. He pops it down. It is just for a disruptor kill. He's got the Shadow Blade, and it looks like that purchase has sort of caught Kinguin off guard. They don't have detection for him. So Silent will be able to make it away. But it is using the Chronosphere just for a disruptor kill.
Yeah, and Kinguin still have plenty of time left on this Aegis, so I imagine last 2 outer towers remaining are going to be their primary objective, assuming that Patos doesn't die here.
And they're looking for him. The Ice Blaster is going to be duked out as Patos forces himself to the side. Nongrata still chasing and punching though. Really wants to find this. Can Patos get himself away with the jukes? He's trying. Does get the 2-man burrow strike. In fact, he's revving up the epicenter. He's looking to turn it around, get the damage out. And with the help of Exotic Deer, they're going to be able to get both of those there. So Patos happy to give his life away to allow Exotic Deer to pick up a double kill.
That Scorpion twitching in death.
Just the one.
Just the one.
That's still a nice 100
I mean, every
gold.
little bit counts, yeah. I'll take it. Solid reaction coming out from Patos. Again, like I told you, this dude had to be the playmaker, and it's even coming out beyond Lifestealer Infest ganks. He's just so naturally tanky right now that a Night Stalker struggles to finish him off with an AA Ice Blast, and now they're invading.
Ali Sash is looking for the cat. They've got Castle straight away leading him with the telekinesis, holding No Fear in place. So Exotic Deer can bring him down. More money and gold for the Exotic Deer Lifestealer.
Very well played by Ali, Sash, and Katsur, hiding themselves in fog so that Tusk couldn't find anyone to snowball. Only person that he could see was a raged up Lifestealer whacking away, and mid-tier 2 starting to get claimed. Chrono is still down for another 20 seconds.
And we'll see Silent. He did manage to find the courier of Kinguin out in the river. So a bit more money for him, as he does still continue to sit about 1,500 gold ahead of Exotic Deer, but it is Kinguin, the ones now pushing up to the high ground. As you say, just a little bit more time until Chronosphere is back up. Hurricane Pike complete on Iceberg and Silent. He's got it now. He's trying to set up with the Shadow Blade. See if he can catch anyone on the retreat here from Kinguin. Doesn't look like he wants to chase too far, so Kinguin will be allowed to back up safely. As they've got some deep wards down as well, about 3 observer wards sort of around this mid lane area of the map from Kinguin, so they will have good information on the movements of FlyToMoon when they look to leave the base.
They've still got time left on this Aegis, and at first I thought I would have been okay with throwing a Chrono, or rather Exotic Deer tanking a Chrono just to burn off the Aegis, but it's early enough in the game that there's no reason to take these kinds of risks. And I vastly underrated the push of this Visage. These familiars plus the dominated siege creep are just munching through these towers, and there's no cooldown dependence. Like, there's no Terrorblade Metamorphosis type push, there's no DK Dragon Form type push. You constantly have this available. You can win a fight with the familiars, you can immediately push afterwards with the familiars. It's very Lone Druid-esque.
We'll see that as FlyToMoon do leave the base. They get the D ward, but will be spotted out by Kinguin, so Kinguin know that FlyToMoon have left their base. BKB very much, pretty much done here for Silent. So we'll have that sort of guarantee of getting off the big Chronospheres in the fights.
So they're claiming the last free tower, but things start to get a little bit tricky here because you've been able to breach high ground due to FlyToMoon leaving their base and getting caught into optimistic fights up against this Lifestealer and the Sand King and Static Storm and whatnot, but breaching high ground against a Chronosphere is very, very stressful. But they're going to try it anyway. Still got this Aegis.
Up they go, looking for this tier 3 tower. Kinguin. How are FlyToMoon going to be able to stop them? That's the question. Look at the Cold Feet proc onto Exotic Deer. Silent already eyeing up a potential for a big Chrono. Can he find it though? That's the question. As the tier 3 has already fallen. Silent will have to just simply reveal himself. Exotic Deer and Nisha temporarily held back by the shards, but they walk themselves around. Starting to leave the base here, FlyToMoon, seeing if they can get some sort of a catch. They'll smoke up, wanting to close the gap onto Kinguin, but Kinguin backing away, keeping the distance. I don't know if Silent can close this gap. He may find Nisha. He's heading in. He's got a time walk available if he wants to go in for the catch. The shard's not going to quite grab Nisha, and if anything, make the chase a little bit harder for themselves. So FlyToMoon will not be able to punch back at Kinguin. So Kinguin getting away with that tier 3 tower and losing nothing in return for it.
Iceberg's playing a little too safe for me. Right now, Void is basically looking for a good Chrono, and the OD is like, well, once you find a good Chrono, then I'll immediately follow up afterwards. But Kinguin have the types of heroes that don't need to get close. Rubik's going to stay 10 miles back. Disruptor's waiting for a Static Storm opportunity. Sand King with Epicenter can just go straight into a Chrono. He doesn't care. So I feel like it's kind of Iceberg's job to draw aggro from Kinguin. He blinks in, can Astral someone in the backlines, and then you kind of throw... Oh, Chrono.
So he's found Patos. It's a Chrono and a BKB pop for it. I mean, he really doesn't hold back with these Chrono Silent.
No.
If he sees a kill, he does go for it, but you can sort of be sure that Kinguin now are going to try and make something happen during this time where they know that there's no BKB or Chronosphere up on Silent. They'll find always want to fly at the least outside of the base. We'll see if they can get anything more done, but it always feels a little bit risky for FlyToMoon when they have this time where the Chrono is clearly unavailable from them.
Yeah, they basically just gave a license to Kinguin to go to their bot high ground now, because top lane is pushing for FlyToMoon, but as I've iterated multiple times, Outworld Devourer not a pusher. So the siege is creating some pressure, but they're not going to hit the tier 3 tower, so you don't need to respond to that. All that matters is Chrono is down for only another 30 seconds, I suppose, but we've seen how quickly this Visage can push.
Yeah, let's see what the plan is going to be from FlyToMoon, as you say. Fully in on this push. They are going to have to answer that, though. Kinguin's down bottom. 10 seconds till Chronosphere. Katsuo already with Exotic Deer inside him, ready for the play. They jump in straight away, looking for always want to fly. Take down the AA.
They steal Ice Blast also, so that's going to screw Faceless Void over.
Let's see. He's got his Chrono back up Silent. But already the tier 3 taking a lot of damage here, as Kinguin should be able to find another Silent. Jumps forward. He does manage to get the 3-man Chrono. Do they have the damage to follow up? He's focusing Exotic Deer. He's getting the bashes. The rage comes out. Exotic Deer trying to get himself away, but he can't. They'll get the kill onto the Lifestealer. Can they get anything more out of this? Silent finds Katsuo. It's a double kill for Silent, but Nisha on the backlines. He's picked up the No Fear Tusk. He's got the 3-man Familiar stun, but the Sanity's Eclipse comes out from Iceberg, keeps the OD alive, and they find the full team wipe. Silent holding on there with the big Chrono, coming back up just in time. Triple kill for him. They are managing to hit back at Kinguin very, very hard. I mean, sure, Kinguin got the tier 3 tab, but not worth at all. A very impressive defense from FlyToMoon.
Both teams were looking at two different fights. Kinguin saw the Sand King initiation on the backlines, and they were almost playing as if their Lifestealer still had the Aegis, because all the damage was going straight onto the Lifestealer, and no one was really helping him. And they were trying to go on the backlines, but like I said, you've got Snowball, you've got Astral. There's so many banishes to be concerned about that it's more important to make sure your Lifestealer survives. But the Exotic Deer carry ends up going down, and Kinguin lose 5. And this is a team that will lose late to FlyToMoon's squad.
Absolutely, especially with the way that the Silent's been playing. It's 10-0-6 on this Void. This Void going to be absolutely huge as the game goes on. As we can see already, he's about 4k ahead of Exotic Deer off the back of that last team fight. He's pretty much got the money for the MKB to come out, and that's going to solve any sort of issues he had in terms of getting the quick kill onto Exotic Deer during the Chronosphere.
Yeah, and I think a different situation, Silent would have probably gone Aghanim Scepter at this point, but Iceberg is not really dealing as much damage as he wants, and he knows that, again, if you can kill Lifestealer inside the Chrono, that's really all that matters. So put in all the damage, get the MKB. While Chronosphere is somewhat cooldown dependent, now that you've claimed a net worth advantage, it's not as big of a concern, because Kinguin are still going to be scared about moving across the map against a Night Stalker who's kind of been sleeping for the past like 10-15 minutes, but Nangrata has 2.7k HP, he's got a Solar Crest, he's got a Hood. This dude is so tanky, he can just go face first into enemy territory.
He's hunting with the Shadow Blade. He's ready to pop the Chrono if he needs to. He's looking towards Nisha, and he will. He'll let it out straight up with the Ice Blast, focusing down his Visage. They take him out for a full minute.
And more, Exotic Deer.
And Katsuo also being chased down. Obviously Silent heading towards Exotic Deer with Nangrata. He wants the bigger kill of the two of them. Exotic Deer has got the TP with a bash. It's there on the first hit. Silent able to stun him up. Exotic Deer's trying for the Jukes around in the tree line, but they'll hunt him down. FlyToMoon pick up a second core kill. Silent beyond godlike. I mean, it almost feels like this game for the lineup of Kinguin is becoming impossible to play because of how big this Void is.
11-0-7 on Silent. Here I was talking about the Iceberg show, but apparently Silent had like another thing on Netflix that no one was watching, but Season 2 has just been amazing right now.
I mean, it really has. This is... Silent has been... we saw at the start, you know, he got free farm. He got the lane to himself, and he certainly didn't let that go to waste, as he is Now the driving force behind FlyToMoon as they head up to the high ground. Iceberg will jump in, just get caught out by the burrow strike, but the backup's going to be there. Straight away, no fear, snowballs forward. The Static Storm comes out, but the damage from Iceberg flies in from the Hurricane Pike and takes down Ellie Sash. He'll buy back, he'll look towards No Fear. They have got the familiar stuns, the nuke as well for the Soul Assumption to bring down the Tusk. As the rest of FlyToMoon will back away. But the tier 3 is taken, already a bit of damage being done to those 2 wrecks in the middle lane.
That costs a Disruptor buyback, which isn't that expensive, to be fair. He's only level 13, but an Aghanim Scepter Static Storm could be critical at turning these fights around. These BKBs on Faceless Void make it so that, you know, Sand King can't jump in with a Burrow Strike, you can't telekinesis the Faceless Void, you can't put the Static Storm on him, and you can't Visage stun him. So being able to disable the BKB would be great. And unfortunately, Lifestealer is still... Well, actually, he's not even considering a Nullifier right now. He's finished off the Sage and Yasha after the Radiant Solar Crest, and now he's looking for an AC, which I don't really know if that's the best idea.
I mean, I guess if anything, it sort of gives him that extra bit of tank if he does get chronoed, but I mean, still questionable whether that was actually going to be enough to make a difference against the physical punch of Silent now at this stage. As you say, maybe would have been better to see Kinguin sort of go all in on the basket of just getting the jump themselves and not really sort of planning for a situation where they get chronoed, as it's going to be already incredibly hard to sort of turn the tides if Silent does find a good chronosphere. And
it's only going to get harder. Faceless Void is level 24.25, which means that he's about to hit that plus 175 chronosphere AoE talent at level 25. And at that point, it really doesn't matter how far back you position your enemy team, you're going to get caught. At least 2 or 3 heroes, probably even 4.
We'll see what FlyToMoon's next move is going to be, as they do now hold a comfortable advantage. 33 minutes in this 9k gold lead. And MKB also finished for Iceberg as well, so sort of that timing where there is that sort of edge towards Kinguin's calls with the evasion they have through the Radiance's Solar Crest. That's sort of gone now.
Yeah, it's basically 8k net worth on the Lifestealer that's not really being utilized. It's now Burrow Strike, Epicenter.
Going to have No Fear coming in with the BKB from Iceberg. He's just going to pop it straight away, slide forward. He's more than happy to try and fight back against Kinguin's squad. He's doing his best to punch through them. Exotic Deer and Nisha are focusing down Iceberg, but Iceberg pops the cheese. Panos is there with the Burrow Strike. Iceberg, Self-Astral. Ice Blast flying in. Can he jump himself out? He can. Iceberg down towards the trees. He'll head himself away. They're still hunting. They're still chasing Iceberg. Is he actually going to be able to get away with this? He's got the Hurricane back up in a second. They don't quite know where he is. And
he knows what they are.
He's going to get the kills. He goes back in. He gets both of them. Goes for the TP. They've got nowhere. Oh, they have. The Familiars are back in time. They will punish him for a pretty greedy play, as he certainly could have got out of there, but he saw an opportunity for a couple of kills and he wanted it. But yeah, it did cost him his life, and the OD, that's a pretty big kill to give up.
Yeah. I mean, the entire idea to be positioned up that high with only your Tusk and your OD there, no one on FlyToMoon was anywhere near the vicinity. That fight went on for a solid minute, and Nongata was sprinting his way up there, Silent was time-walking his way up there, but it was just too far. And yeah, for 2 supports, I don't think you give up the OD, but...
We'll see this again, this replay, where Iceberg, you know, he has a taste for blood, but Nisha straight and is able to close the gap, summoning the Familiars in.
Yeah, I guess you force out a resummon of Familiars, but I don't think Nisha really cares that much of this.
Silent. He's got a double damage.
He's looking.
There's no one out here at the moment, though. Kinguin back towards the base. They will smoke. They would love to get a chrono with this DD. Would guarantee easy kills for FlyToMoon.
Yeah, and the Silver Edge can break the Gravekeeper's Cloak, so it wouldn't even take that much time.
Nisha's out here. I mean, with the double damage, they might not even need to chrono.
1, 2.
And where's that bash now?
There
Up on the chrono now. He gets a little too far away. The RNGs aren't there with the bashes, so
Rubik
Silent can miss the chrono. Gets one. Now got the Yules though onto Katsuo. They're chasing this Rubik down. He popped the chrono, but there he is on the sideline. Silent ready to bash him down, as the chrono doesn't cause any issues at all for FlyToMoon. Silent's streak continues, 13-0-7. As they really do need to try and find an answer for this Void, but it seems like there just isn't one.
And he's going for Butterfly next, which is a little bit surprising to me. I don't think Silent needs to tank up, or he might bash Sand King.
Let's see what he can do it. There's the break hit, and there's the damage. More kill involvement for Silent. This 5th pick, Faceless Void, proving to be absolutely brutal against Kinguin.
And the gem picked up as well, which means that the Silver Edge initiation continues to be very, very valuable.
Straight into the mid they go. There's still 28 seconds without Nisha's Visage. Pados does have buyback available. And in 10 seconds, I mean, Iceberg's going to have the Sanity's Eclipse back up.
Chrono is down for 40, though.
See if Kinguin can actually get anything done within that time, though, as there's now a 14k advantage for FlyToMoon. They're going in, looking towards Catsor. No fear, rolls forward, able to pick off the Ruby. Ellie Sash and Exotic Deer, they have to run away. Exotic Deer's just straight back into the base. Ellie Sash can't get himself out of the ice shards there from No Fear, holding him down. And I mean, this game at this point, it looks like it may just even be over as FlyToMoon take a second set of racks. It just feels like this is a game where there's no comeback potential at all from Kinguin's squad because of the fact that Silent, he's just had the easiest game of his life, it seems, on this Void.
The game will end in a... So Chronosphere is up now. Silent wants to pad his stats a little bit more. You know, he wants to secure that MVP algorithm for his name. He's got the Chrono, he's got the Time Walk, and he's got a 13-0-8 score right now.
I mean, it's without a doubt been one of the most solid performances we've seen in a while on a Void. Silent. I mean,
the best part is you've got Night Stalker vision, so you can see everything.
And he's straight in. Gets the Chrono onto a couple of them. There's pretty tanky Nisha on this Visage, but not tanky enough. Visage down for 80 seconds. Exotic Deer gets bursted by the Sanity's Eclipse. He will buy back. They have got the Epi and the Burrow Strike, but it's not enough damage to kill off Silent, as Silent can time walk himself away. Iceberg just turning, beating them down here with the build-up into he has. The buybacks are coming out as Kinguin desperately trying to hold, turn things around. They'll look towards Non-Grata with the Burrow Strike, but they don't have quite enough control to bring him down. Pados is trying to chase.
Nice.
He's got the Yules. Maybe they can at least find the Night Stalker. Familiar stuns are down. They have got Non-Grata at least, but the base in a lot of trouble for Kinguin as they have cleaned it up. FlyToMoon, 24k net worth lead, multiple buybacks coming out from Kinguin, and a Night Stalker kill is not going to be enough to cut it sort of at this stage, as they do continue to fall further and further behind. They'll hold on, but they're not holding on by much.
Yeah, I think Iceberg underestimated the size of that Chronosphere. He ended up piking himself into the edge of it as it was being created, and so if that didn't happen, I would probably say that this game is a little bit closer to being over, which it's pretty over, but whatever. You can keep getting more kills. 14-0-10 now for Silence Void. He's devastatingly large, and now Roshan has respawned, and Familiar ends up dying to the cleave as Silent is just going to solo it.
And this is, the Roche with the Refresher Shard as well, so I think both Silent and Iceberg will be vying for that one.
No. He's going to confiscate it from Iceberg if he goes for it.
I mean, doubles. Nice.
He
Let him have
gives
it.
it. Wow.
I mean, the double sanities at this stage, as big as he is.
Entire monitor chronospheres,
I guess,
the Venn diagram.
The double bubble, yeah. It's appealing. But I guess the reality really is at this stage of the game, one good chronosphere, you're going to kill them in the one chrono.
Yeah.
You don't really need the two. But the double sanities is incredibly satisfying.
Especially against these strength heroes like Lifestealer and Sand King. They're hanging on by a thread. But Sanity's Eclipse is coming up in 30 seconds, and I think they were going to be like, no, we want to do double.
Oh, yeah. He doesn't want to pop the refresher just for to save the mere 20 seconds. You want to have the double wow.
Astral on the Lifestealer.
BKB has been popped here by Iceberg. There's jump forward Silent. It's just a chrono onto one, but it is a big one. It's Exotic Deer caught in the chrono, punched down, and he's dead for 110 seconds. FlyToMoon, they'll look for more. Iceberg pops the refresher, jumps in. There's the Sanities as he cleans up Kinguin. GG is called, and FlyToMoon take game one here off the back of a very easy game for Silent on his Faceless Void. Did not die at all. Flawless performance, 17-0-12 from him. They just couldn't deal with the Void.
No, and I don't think they were expecting that they had to deal with the Void. They were like, Lifestealer versus Faceless Void, it's under control, but I guess the perception a lot of times is it's an off-lane Void. A one-position Void carries a hell of a lot of a stronger punch, and even though OD didn't really have that much of a contribution, didn't really matter, because Silent put all FlyToMoon on his back.
And I think if anything, Iceberg, the sort of biggest impact he did have was at the start. The fact that he was able to beat Nisha in lane meant that this Visage, I mean, sure, Nisha caught back up, and as we saw, he was very tanky, but he was unable to sort of get the ball rolling early on in the sense of having that early sort of power on the Visage because of the fact that he did suffer in farm during the early stages. But this lineup of Kinguin looking rather defeated indeed, as they've got to really consider how to change things up. I mean, sort of looking at the back of how FlyToMoon played that first game, if you are Kinguin, what do you think you are doing differently in game 2?
Well, FlyToMoon didn't really have control of the game for like the first 25 minutes or so. Like tier 3s were getting pushed. They were using chronos randomly on solo targets.
Pados had a big effect sort of during that period as well, because as we saw, the free farm was there at the start for FlyToMoon. They got the lead then. But then, as you say, Pados had that bit of time where the impact came through, but it just wasn't able to carry through to the end.
Yeah.
Well, there we have it, ladies and gentlemen. FlyToMoon taking game 1 of this best of 3. We'll pass you back to the panel to hear what they have to say about the performance.
Our panel doubted the silent, faceless void, but in the end, FlyToMoon delivered. That is 1,362 career appearances for Silent, tying Loda for top 20 all time. In that time, he had only played 13 Faceless Void games with a 6-7 career record, but none of that matters as the Faceless Void, gentlemen, delivers in game 1. I want to start off with the early game gods and talk about that OD versus Visage lane matchup. The OD got off to quite the start, Visage not having the early game impact that we were looking for in the draft.
Yeah, he got outplayed. I don't know. It's a matchup that shouldn't be as one-sided as it was. I've played that matchup a ton of times, and definitely can. I mean, if you have a bad first few waves, you know, sometimes the lane just snowballs out of control. Iceberg is an incredibly mechanically skilled player, and I think he shows that he's just a better mechanical mid there, and that's a big deal. It slowed down the item timings a lot. I think the key thing for Visage, let's bring up to you, is you're going to rush home the dominate. You have to get before 10 minutes. 10 minutes is when that siege creep comes out. We saw him get a siege creep eventually and hold on to it for like all the game. He didn't want to get rid of it. That siege creep gets you a tower. You get double siege at 10 minutes in, you take the tier 1, you rotate somewhere else, you take another tower, you snowball from there. Their draft was meant to dominate the mid-game timings with those siege creeps, and he just got beat too bad in the lane.
Yeah, Gabe, the other thing I wanted to focus on was the mid-game decision-making by Kinguin. They spent a lot of time from 50 to 20 minutes in that game around the Roche pit, and during that time, Silent, already with his Battle Fury, is free farming. He had Battle Fury and Shadow Blade at 20 minutes and clearly caught Kinguin by surprise. He's able to dive that tier 2 tower, kill the Disruptor in the Chronosphere, and then Shadow Blade out. They were not expecting that.
I think that it was like a lot of it also because of how well they did in the laning stage that set them up for that, because they got the items that they needed to tank through the aggression. They were able to sort of like hold off that push. It always felt like they were sort of being pressured up, you know, a spring being pushed against a wall, and then it all comes out at the end, and then they start overrunning them. And going back to the mid matchup too, I think part of the reason that you ended up seeing the OD do so well is because I think he got the first blood down their bottom as well. So he like starts out with like a little bit of an item advantage. So that does make a big difference. We saw that the other day as well. I think that it was the Jakiro who got
against
the first
the Brood
blood.
Mother. Yeah, that was a big deal.
Double null tower.
That would make. I mean, that alone could actually explain the big difference in CS. Having double null at level 1 is just like such a big advantage in a lane like that. I like what you brought up too, is that the double save on FTM played a huge part here. The Tusk, the OD. We saw a couple times they tried to actually kill the Void. You know, they knew this Void is the big threat. That's the hero that can outcarry the Lifestealer, is going to beat a Visage late game, but anytime they went on him with the Static Storm, there was an Astral save, there was Snowball saves, there was really good defensive play coming out from the FTM side.
Yeah, despite all of that, though, the game is dead even at the 28-minute mark, and it was really that Roche fight that that broke the game open here. As we see, this was a little bit unusual that the OD was rotating a lot to the top lane, and not all of those fights were going in the favor. It looked like Exotic Deer was going to kind of feed on some of the FlyToMoon heroes here. Patos had a super early Blink Dagger. Kinguin were able to take the 2 tier 3s here right before the 28-minute mark, but never able to threaten the racks.
Yeah, and that's late for Visage lineup. If you go back to when EG were picking a lot for Fear, most of those games were ending between 19 and 25 minutes. 20 minutes is kind of the benchmark, I think, for taking a tier 3 tower and your first lane of racks. If you're not doing that, you're behind, you're in a bad spot. That first tier 3 tower came too late. You could tell what they were trying to do and what the Visage draft was meant to do to beat this lineup, but it just didn't happen at the right timings.
Yeah, that was on me, by the way, a minute ago. I misspoke when I said the Roche fight. It was that bottom lane fight right at the 20-minute mark that right after that, the net worth just spiked, and it felt like Kinguin were all of a sudden on the back foot.
And even before that, when it was like pretty even neck and neck for the first like 20 minutes of the game, that's not good for Kinguin. They needed to be ahead. They needed to be the ones taking more towers. That their lineup with Visage Lifestealer is designed to do that, and they were not ahead. They were just on equal terms.
And for me, the other thing that I think a lot of people are going to be looking at Silent here and saying, he carried the game, you know, this guy's the MVP. But for me, I felt like it was the Tusk. No fear on this hero. Like, the pressure was coming early and often, and his ability to move in, make a bunch of clutch snowball saves, along with the help of the OD, like we were talking about, the double save that they've got going, and they run to a lot in their draft, meant that he was able to make that space for Silent to come online. Like, if Silent doesn't get into a decent timing on that Battle Fury, he doesn't push out the waves as quickly, he doesn't force Kinguin to have to move back and respond as quickly. They slowed down the game, and you know, that's the thing that you don't normally expect out of CIS teams. It's not just run at you. They did a really good job of knowing when the timing was when they needed to get big. Yeah,
and I think as the game dragged on, right, we were all worried about FlyToMoon having to play around that big cooldown, the Chronosphere. But as the game moved on, it was basically, the Chronosphere was a one-man pickoff device. As long as they could pick off either the Visage or the Lifestealer, it felt like Kinguin just couldn't fight.
Yeah, in the late game, it's okay because you're guaranteed to be able to kill a core if your opposing team doesn't have a save, and that's where, well, yeah, using a chrono doesn't really matter as much. In the early game, it's a much bigger deal because that's also when respawns are a lot shorter. So you kill a Visage in the late game when he's level 20 or so, well, by the time he's respawned, your chrono's back up. In the early to mid game, which is when Visage is incredibly strong and peaks, that's where you can't get away with having a bad chrono because that or killing one hero, they're going to respawn and go right at you with those short respawn times.
And you could even see that, right? Kinguin even did that once around the Roshan pit where they dove. They lost a fight to the Chronosphere, but once they knew the chrono was down, they just respawned, went right back into the Rosh pit and got the Aegis.
Yeah, so the early and mid game was definitely scary, but they held on and survived through it.
Interesting here. I thought Silent was going to be the easy winner, but the computer does pick Iceberg here. He did come back into the game. It felt like he had a really good laning phase. He had a little bit of a questionable rotation top, which set him back in the game, but by the end, he was right up there in damage with Silent. But
I think it was his spooky haircut. He looks like a werewolf.
I mean,
the computer is scared of Iceberg if they're giving him MVP.
You see them? They took away the refresher shard. He was like, this is my refresher shard. Get out of here, Silent.
Are you going to fight that guy for a refresher shard? I don't think I'm going to.
Silent's not a big guy, that's for sure. So I don't think you'll find much agreement here. But if Iceberg comes in, maybe we'll agree. So
well, there you go. FlyToMoon up 1-0 here in our first best of 3 series of the day. Kinguin are going to be fighting for their tournament lives in Game 2. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back with more Dota 2.